Another race at Spa, and yet another terrifying wreck at Eau Rouge. This time it happened during the W Series and qualifying, and that brings up the conversation that happens every time there's a crash here. Should something be changed about this corner? I get there's a case for it, a case against it. You're going to hear my thoughts. Let's jump right into this. Now, I get that lots of people are going to want to keep it because it's one of, if not the most iconic corners in Formula One. It's what Spa's known for. It's created so many amazing moments, but it's also created so many not so amazing moments, to put it very lightly. Over the last few years, we've seen the W Series crash. We've seen the Jack Aiken crash. Obviously, we saw Antoine Hubert's crash. And at what point do we start putting human lives in front of our entertainment like we should be doing? And I get there are people going to be saying, oh, it's motorsports, crashing is part of it, the drivers know the risks. Yes, the drivers know the risks, but when is enough enough? When are we going to draw the line? Clearly, people dying is not where we draw the line, or there would have been changes made to it. Are we going to let these accidents just keep on happening? Now, I love Spa, I love Eau Rouge, but it's gotten to a point where something about that corner needs to be changed. You can't just tell the drivers, oh, don't go flat out through there. They're racers. They're going to push the limits. That's why they're in those cars. So something needs to be done. Now, you don't even really need to necessarily change the actual corner, but add some runoff room. Look at, for example, look at 1 and 2 in Austria. Those are corners where the gravel, I guess it's only 2, the gravel is essentially part of the track, and it slows everything down. Maybe you go to something like what France does. They have the runoff room and all the parts where if you go off the main tarmac, it slows down the car dramatically. It penalizes you kind of for going off of the track. Something like that needs to be done at Spa. You don't necessarily need to change the corner. You don't need to change really anything about the cars, but you need to do something to either the barriers that are not doing their job or the runoff room. Add some gravel. Add the tarmac slips at France. Or change, not even or, do this as well, change the barriers. Because right now what these cars are doing is they're hitting the barriers and it's not absorbing it. The barriers push the cars back out onto the track, and boom, the other train of cars just comes up and nails them. Make something about those barriers, whether you put tire barriers or whatever, so it absorbs it, so the car doesn't hit it and come bouncing back onto the track. And I know there's a lot of people that are going to possibly disagree with this. They're going to be like, oh no, we can't change this, it's so iconic, it's so important, but at some point, we need to really start to focus more on the safety of these drivers. The change might not even be a bad thing. Remember when the Halo was first introduced? Nobody liked it. They thought, oh, the car is ugly, it's taken this back. We've seen the Halo in the very few years since it's been introduced save quite a few drivers' lives. Could be the same thing here. Changing part of the track, something that's not going to be insanely popular with a bunch of people. But if it even saves one person, it's going to be worth it. This wasn't, as you could tell, this isn't really a scripted video. I'm just kind of going off the cuff of my head. I don't even know if that makes sense. Just going off the top of my head, because I didn't want to make this video, but these incidents just keep happening. And something needs to be said, something needs to be done about that track. There are so many instances in F1 where changes that people haven't really been a fan of have done a lot of great things. It's motorsports as a whole. IndyCar with the aero screen. That is something that, it maybe made the cars look a little bit weird with it, but it has done so much to protect the drivers. Or the Hans device, in NASCAR especially. After Dale Earnhardt died, it became mandatory, and it has saved quite a few drivers. We need to do something like that here. You know, and there's only so much that can actually be done in the car, especially in these open wheelers. But change the track, change the runoff, change the tire barriers. I don't care what you change. You need to do something, because these accidents they're not just accidents. Most accidents are fine, right? Like we saw with Verstappen and Hamilton over at Silverstone. That barrier did its job. The gravel slowed down the car, not much, but it did slow down the car, and then the barrier absorbed the car instead of pushing it back out. Boom. That possibly saved Max from being seriously injured. Do something like that here. Put in gravel, put in tire barriers, put in something to change up the corner. You know, I don't know what they're going to do. I'm not a track designer. I'm not an engineer. I'm not some magical car genius. But you don't need to be to see that something has to change with this corner. That's all I've got to say. I appreciate you guys watching the video. Yeah, I didn't really have much to say today, but something just needs to change at Eau Rouge. A little different from my normal... this is a lot different from my normal content, but it is what it is. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next video.